There we are.
Dum-da-dum. Hello, happy Sunday, everybody. Cathy Segal-Garcia here. Of course, you know because you're on my page, but I just like to say my name. Okay, well, my special guest today is Judy Carmichael. Judy Carmichael, she can tell me more about what she is, but I know her to be one of the greatest stride players alive today, and stride piano players, and a great singer, songwriter. She has done an interview session with hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands, right? I don't know.
Yeah, at this point.
For 20 years, called Jazz Inspired. We'll talk about that, with musicians and directors and actors. And I mean, I've been on the show, and when she and I first saw each other about a year and a half ago, we met in New York at Jazz Connect. It's only been a year and a half.
That's amazing.
I know. We just looked at each other, and we both had I guess, similar smile, and our hair is kind of, the same. But we just loved each other immediately, and we just have a lot of great communication back and forth. She's on the road all the time, except of course for now. But we're gonna talk a little bit. We're gonna talk about music too, and she's gonna play for us and sing for us, hopefully. But we're going to talk about some other stuff too, like how this time period is really affecting musicians, especially, and other people, but especially musicians, because we're musicians. Hi everybody, I'm glad you're joining already. Judy, you can't see the comments and who's joining.
I can't see you anymore. How do I get to see you? I'm seeing your lovely poster board that says "Be Brave."
Oh, okay. Let's see if I can.
I want to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm like down there.
There you are.
Okay, let me see if I can move you down. Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess everybody else can see you, but I can't see
you. Yeah. I'll move. This is really makeshift what I did here.
Well, we're figuring this is a chance to learn something new, which creative people love.
Yeah.
No. I can sort of. I see your computer. Oh, it's because you're doing it on Facebook. So, but I can't watch it on Facebook while I'm also talking to you. I don't think, because I think there'll be a delay or something.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't really be.
Should I watch it on Facebook?
I hate when I do that. That's the second time I've done that. Are you there? No. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I better not keep dropping my.
You didn't have a crash.
Yes.
Should I watch it on Facebook?
What's your drop?
Hold on 1 second. I'm okay.
Oh, I can watch it on Facebook. I can see you, so don't change anything. I'll just watch it on Facebook.
Okay, let's see if I can do a little something.
Well, no, I see you on Facebook.
Okay.
I just got you up on Facebook.
Well, you can actually watch that.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so good. I don't see me, but I see you, and I don't need to see me. I know what I look like. Oh, there I am.
Well, you should be on for other people. So let me.
Okay, can they see me?
Hold on. So, oh my goodness. Oh, here we go. Okay. I'm getting it together, ladies and gentlemen.
I think it's great they get to see us adapt to this.
Okay.
While she's doing that, can they hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about it. When you and I met, it was one of those things that I think with great connections, that when you feel you've already met somebody, and that's what we both said. Yeah, don't we know each other? So I think we already knew each other.
Yeah. Okay, that should be good. And you can see me on Facebook, right, Jude?
I can, but there is a delay, so I'm not sure I should do that.
Yeah, don't worry about, just if you want to look at me, you can see the face, you could just turn the sound off.
I think that's what I might do, because it might delay.
All right.
I'm going to turn the sound off on my Facebook, I think, because I think that's what's going to make up. But can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. There we are.
And Dave, thank you. Dave suggested using a music stand. Why didn't I think of that? No, I'm using some other weirdo thing. Anyway, I'm going to turn, oh, there you are. So, ladies and gentlemen, Judy Carmichael.
Hi, everybody. This is a new experience for me, too.
Wow. There's so much to talk about, isn't there?
I know.
Well,
there is.
First, I think actually it would be really cool to hear about Jazz Inspired. Could you give us?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just posted your lovely tribute.
I saw that. That was cute.
Oh, I loved it. Well, when I started this, should I be looking here because I see you on Facebook? Is that okay? Or should I be looking up here?
Yeah, look. Well, wherever, because it seems
really
you're very close. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, when I started the show, I've always been fascinated with the creative process, and so I wanted to really honor that, but talk to people, and because I think there's as many different ways to approach creativity and inspiration as there are people.
Yeah.
Everybody does it differently, and I was fascinated with having a conversation about that and featuring a lot of people that wouldn't usually get an hour on NPR. And I'm an independent producer, so NPR isn't telling me what to do. That's the great advantage. The disadvantage is they're not paying me for this. I have to raise all money. But the big advantage is that I'm doing the choosing. So I have a handful of very well-known people that I think about their work in a bigger way, that it isn't just a narcissistic exercise, that they really do care about putting something good into the world, but they are also famous.
Yeah.
But the majority of the people, I have probably 80%, aren't household names, but they're at a very high level and they're great, yourself included.
Thank you.
And so that's what I wanted to do. And I hope that if I would talk about their work, because there are people from all different kinds of the arts, and why they love jazz, that it would also be a way to bring the uninitiated, or maybe people that are a little afraid of jazz, or think they don't like jazz, to bring them into this music. And if they find out that Benson loves jazz, or they find out that Billy Joel loves jazz, maybe they'll listen to the show and they'll give jazz a chance. Because I think a lot of people hear one thing and they think that's everything, and they don't give jazz a chance.
Yeah. That's really cool. There's several things that I personally really appreciate about that. One is that just by doing what you feel pulled to do creatively, you are causing ripples, and I really believe in that. I mean that's how life moves forward, right?
I think so. And I think that it's, my fantasy was that I could have a different kind of interview if people came in not talking necessarily about a single project that they were promoting, but talking about the entire individual and why they do the work they do, how they keep doing the work. And now is a very interesting time, of course, because how do we keep doing this work? How do we stay positive and inspired? And one of the things that I find particularly fascinating with the situation we're in now with the coronavirus is, of course, this is on a huge worldwide scale, but it epitomizes something that most artists, except for the few that are independently wealthy or subsidized in some way, most artists go through this every day to a certain extent, which is a feeling of isolation. No one understands the work I'm doing. No one cares about the work I'm doing. No one will pay for the work I'm doing. Then they work their way through that and they keep going. And this is very interesting because before you and I started this, I even mentioned to you that one of the things that's been irritating me is that they're talking about all these people out of work, but the only people they've really focused on that I've seen in the music business have been massively successful musicians. You know, they're talking about waiters and waitresses, which they should, and all these other people. But they show John Legend singing from his living room and saying, artists really dedicating their time to give back in the time of their hardship. And I'm thinking about the people we know who, if this goes on for more of a month or two, won't be able to pay their mortgage. Most of the musicians I know live pretty much month to month. This is not, even the successful ones don't have a huge savings account necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that's really accurate. And I think that a lot of these people watching, there's a good number of people who are worried about that. And they're trying not to be worried, you know, they're trying to have a positive attitude, and it's challenging. And especially I find watching the news too much, or watching some of these videos that are being sent, you know, I got one this morning that was sent that I unfortunately watched some of, and wow, that took me a while to get out of that frame of mind. And I happened to be messaging Paul Jost, who was on yesterday, and he sent me some really great uplifting videos. So thank you, Paul Jost, for that, because that pulled me out a little bit. But the thing is, art, that's what art is for. We're really lucky that we have art to teach us about life, you know, and that we can actually make a difference by putting creativity and inspiration out to people. And when, like you said, that's very accurate. Like you said, that we constantly think like that anyway, but this is just how we normally think, intensified about 1,000 times.
Well, yeah, and I think that it's one of the that's a way maybe that artists can help, or professionally creative people who spend their life at this, in putting out some of our strategies of how we get through our day. I mean, something I found interesting that you told me right before we started is that, like me, because I was telling you this, that I haven't played piano.
Right.
In the last, I had all this work. I was in California, and I came back last Wednesday. Where are we? It's Sunday, so it's been a little over a week. And then the next day, everything was canceled. So it was a huge contrast. And the next few days, I didn't play. It was almost, well, I don't have a concert coming up. I don't have this. And I focused on other things. But now I find I'm sort of settling in. Yeah. This is what we're facing.
Yeah.
And we're used to coming up with strategies to self-motivate, to get things done. And that is something we can also share, because that's very positive. I can't imagine just binge watching all day.
Yeah.
You know, I split my wrists.
Yeah.
That's just not, I still have to feel like I'm accomplishing something.
Yeah.
And that will bring a sense of normalcy in these very abnormal times. I think, I mean, at the end of the day, if I feel I've accomplished something, I get like this. I was really looking forward to this.
Yeah.
It gave me a focus on the day. And something else that I can share that sounds kind of like an odd thought, but I knew someone years ago who was a wonderful aerial photographer. And he made these beautiful books called Above Los Angeles, Above San Francisco, the gorgeous picture books. And I knew him when he was into his 90s. And every day he still got up, put on a suit. He was very dashing. He was really, you know, an ascot. And got dressed and went to the office. Well, he made his money. He no longer had to go to the office. But getting up every day and getting dressed and groomed and going to the office kept this man very positive. And I found that for myself. If I were running around in my pajamas all day, I'd be so depressed. even though I pretty much now could run around in my pajamas, but I still, act like I'm, getting going. If that makes sense, if that's helpful, but that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. And like you said, we were talking before too, and we admitted to each other that we weren't really doing that much music. And I'm not sure why that is. I do force myself to go into the practice room and sit down and write a song, and then I leave. And then, or I play through, I did do 1/2 hour of going over a song that I'm hoping I can do on May 26th when I have a show at the Blue Whale. But that was it, 1/2 hour, and then I left. But I think the thing is that there's so many other things, like if we were leading a normal life, that would be part of our preparation, right? We'd be doing that normally, and we would be putting off things like in our offices that, that long list of ideas to accomplish and do, that now we could actually do, or a friend of mine is practicing her piano, which she never does.
I've been doing the same thing. I've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing. I realized when I sort of hit it down 2 days ago, and I've been talking all these people off a cliff, and I've been sort of really putting all this out there. And I made the funny video I sent you.
Yeah, that was great.
So, but that made me feel really good. Just funnily enough, because I went downstairs and I thought, what is the dressiest thing I own? And I forgot I had that dress. I bought that that I did in a castle in Scotland. So there it was. I thought, this is the most ridiculously over-the-top thing I can do. But it gave me, sort of reminded me I played piano, so I did that. But I'm really setting some things up. I have a book that I'm finishing up on 20 years of jazz inspired.
Oh.
So I thought, oh, good. I'm going to finish that book.
Fantastic.
And I had a long talk with one of my editors yesterday about something that had been bothering me about what I was going to do with the intro. And he gave me great feedback. And I not only, it was a long talk because we were catching up, but not only was it 2 hours of a fascinating conversation, I felt I'd accomplished something. And I have to say, it was 2 hours of not listening to the news, which was really good. It helped me.
I know, but first of all, that's fabulous. She already wrote a great book called what is it called again? Swinger. Jack
Girls Adventures from Hollywood to Harlem.
Great book, really great book. And so this is your second book?
It is my second book.
Wonderful.
So, thank you. Yes, Cathy, I have to say, in the midst of this, I don't want to mention this name, but I have a compliment for you. If I can take time for this.
Sure.
So this is a good friend of mine who's a very famous writer, and he's not I have an editor, but he's been giving me some input as well.
Yeah.
And many great published books, and he's been traveling, so we had this long conversation, and he's one of the few people in the business that I'm completely honest with, because I trust him, that I could say what I'm really thinking about different people. He does the same thing. But basically, long story short, we talked about a bunch of singers, and I was being kind and using euphemisms, and I'd say, well, I think if so-and-so were a little more intelligent, maybe they'd have a better approach. He said, he's dumb as a post. Everybody knows that. I mean, he kept coming back with these hilariously unadorned statements. And then I said, well, now I'm afraid to say anything. I said, because I'm having a conversation with Cathy Segal-Garcia tomorrow. He goes, I love her. I love her. She's great.
Wow, cool.
So this is after trashing about 10 famous singers, so I wanted to pass that along. Two of your friends.
That's cool. Thank you. That's really nice.
He wasn't prejudiced, so.
That's nice. Thank you.
It was very nice. Yeah.
I think what would be really interesting to talk with you about, because I haven't talked about this yet, and you it's so much a part of your life is traveling and making music and getting hired and where you go and how it feels and, you know, various things about that. Because I mean, I just think that you could tell us, a lot of people, what that is about and how it feels. And it's pretty impressive to me, actually. And I'm sure it's impressive to other people too.
Well, thank you. Well, it brings a number of things. I always wanted to travel, and I think, even when I was a little kid, before I knew that I'd be doing this for a living, and so I was intent on finding a career that could allow me to travel a lot, and fortunately, this does. But one of the things I'm sort of settling into here, being home, is I haven't been home for more than 2 months in a row. I haven't been home for 2 months in a row in probably 10 years. So this is going to be extraordinary for me. And I was thinking that the other night, that I'd just to be able to cook a home-cooked meal all these nights in a row without in the back of my head thinking I have to get on a plane. As much as I love traveling, that was really nice. And it was one of the positive things I'm zeroing in on, is that I think, wow, I can finish that book. I can learn some new tunes. I can do, really, because I'm here.
Yeah.
But the positive, really positive part of travel for me is the world seems very small to me because I've been so many places. I have very close friends all around the world. And I'm good at keeping up friendship because people are so far away. We keep up, and you're on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
And I find that my traveling friends are very often good at that because it's sort of part of our way of being. But one of the things that I did that's very different from other musicians I know is that because I never had the support or backing of a big record label, which is the way it used to be done. You would get a record label and they would support you and they would set up tours. I'm just talking about jazz, not rock or anything. And then you get known because you have a big catalog, and hopefully you get invited to other countries to play.
Right.
That never happened for me. I produced all my records. I mean, one I had with another company, but I barely even count that because I produced it and then they distributed it and it came back to me.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I went to those countries anyway. I haven't known anyone who's done it that way. I just, I was brave and jumped off the cliff. And I thought, I want to work in Australia. I'm just going to go. And I'm going to tell a bunch of people that I'm going to be there and see what I can make happen. And lo and behold, I built my reputation in Australia. I did the same thing in England. And that was a very unusual attitude. And one that wasn't reinforced early in my career. Musicians thought I was crazy. They were not, how could you spend that money? How could you go do that? I thought, well, how's anybody going to hear me if I don't just go?
Right.
And so I built my career in other countries the way I built it here. And, I had to invest. I invested that money. But I did it here too. One of my first gigs in California, because I grew up in California, as you know.
Yeah.
When we were coming up, a lot of the jazz clubs weren't reinforcing a woman musician. Some of them were kind of dangerous for me to feel comfortable in when I was younger, to go to, and they were not the greatest areas of things. And I went into a restaurant in Newport Beach that was just beautiful, that someone took me for brunch, and I went up to him and I thought, I'd like to work here, just because it was so nice. And I was 20, and they said, well, we don't have a piano. So I said, well, if I could bring in a piano, will you hire me? And they did. So I borrowed the money, I bought a piano, and I moved it into the place. And I got a gig. Sort of like you build.
Wow, that's impressive.
but it's a metaphor for what I'm talking about. And
yeah.
I think it's that just you know, jump off that cliff, baby. I mean, that's what I did. That's what I did.
So okay. So got a little glimpse of that. And so how it kind of reminds me of Cathy Cousins, my friend from Detroit. She created her whole career. So you're okay. So you're on the road. You're never home more than, what did you say, 10 days in a row?
That's the usual thing.
That's a lot of traveling. Wow.
Travel.
Yeah, you have to really be okay with that and love it, right?
Well, I've thought about this because people bring it up so much.
Yeah.
I'm great at packing. I never take more than one bag. I never check. These are little travel hints.
Wow. How do you not check?
I can be gone for 2 months and I'll take one bag, a rollerboard and a backpack. And I'm good at that. And my musicians always comment on that if I ever travel with anyone else. But part of it is, it would be a lot different if I was 6 feet tall and I were a man and had to bring jackets. It'd be harder.
Yeah.
Planes wouldn't be as friendly.
Yeah.
I'm 5'5", so I, can fit in these planes. But I think you get good at it, and it's mind over matter. If a plane is canceled, I pull out a book. It's like what we're going through now.
Yeah.
I think that you figure out strategies, and it's not being just Pollyanna. I know what's going on, but I know, coming back to the situation we're in now, yesterday, last night I had a real down, not a depression, but kind of a little anxiety thing. And I thought, stop, get a funny movie, something that isn't heavy at all, fix a drink, sit here. I had a steak, a glass of wine. I just thought.
Okay, so what movie did you watch?
Actually, I wound up, this is funny because I thought I was going to watch Frozen 2. I wanted something really just nothing.
Just take your mind away.
I got not a very good movie, but I still got a good movie. It was something apparent that I pushed the buttons wrong. So it was good enough. And it distracted me.
Blazing Saddles was on. Blazing Saddles was on yesterday.
Oh.
That was good. Boy, what a nice guy.
That. What channel was that on? I should watch that.
I don't know. We have our favorite channels that we go to for escape.
Blazing Saddles is the best.
Madeline Kahn. Oh my God.
With the Basie band.
Oh yeah, the Basie band.
That movie. I saw a little flashback. I saw that movie in New York at the what was the theater? I can't even think of what it's called now, but one of those big old theaters in Midtown with Harold Jones.
Wow.
Who was in the band when the Basie band is playing.
That must have been fun.
And he was next to me saying, wait for it. Wait for it. Because you're hearing the Basie band, and then there's the Basie band. Such a great memory. So thank you for that. You brought that.
That's funny. That's great. Yeah. There's two Madeline Kahn moments that I love. One is when she's singing on the stage about her being so tired. and the guy's saying, she's tired, And then the other one was when she was with the sheriff, and then when he's leaving and he says, he has to leave, and then he leaves and she goes, what a nice guy.
It was so good. Anybody that's listening to this who hasn't seen Blazing Saddles, they have to see Blazing Saddles.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
One of the greatest movies ever. So great.
Hey, so we have a question. How do you avoid constant jet lag with so much travel? You're amazing. That's what she said.
Okay. Two things. I'm really blessed with a lot of energy, which I realize now. People have always said it, but now I realize it's just true. So I think some people are just naturally, they have more energy. So I'm lucky. So there, I will give it that. I'm privileged in that regard. But I also eat really well. I've capitalized on all of that. I exercise. I'm in really good shape. And with all of that said, those are the physical aspects. I really think it's mind over matter. If I'm going to Australia, let's say, which for me in New York is really far, I've got to fly to LA, then fly from LA, another 14 hours. And I try to sleep. I get on the plane, and the minute I feel sleepy, I stop everything and go to sleep. And it might only be for 10 minutes, but I just am really aware of that feeling. And I settle in. I get up a lot. I walk around. I drink tons of water. Always have an aisle seat so that I can get up constantly. And I do that. And then once I get to wherever I'm going, I only sleep a couple of hours, and then I force myself to get up, no matter how bad I feel, and get on the time zone of that place. And that's my way. I very seldom will just sleep all the way through. Unless I have a performance, but even if I have a performance, I will sleep a couple, at most 3 hours. And then I wake myself up so that I can be tired enough when I'm on that other time frame.
Right.
That's how I do it.
Interesting.
And I just never let myself think I'm jet lagged.
Yeah.
When that comes to me, I feel jet lagged, I just go, nope, I'm not jet lagged. So I think there's a mind over matter thing.
Cool.
That's for me.
That's really cool to know. I mean, yeah, I've talked to a lot of people about various things like that. Also, excuse me, Diane Kane asked, do you book yourself before or after you travel to, say, France?
Do I book I don't understand. I book my?
Yeah, Diane, I'm not sure I understand that either. You mean does she?
Do I book? Yeah, ask again.
It says, do you book yourself before or after you travel? Maybe she means if you wanted to go to France, do you book yourself ahead of time or you travel there?
Yeah, she means the gigs.
Yeah.
I get no. So this is from a musician and entertainer wants to know how I've done it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
What I've done is I don't just go with nothing happening. I will find out, I'll use Australia as an example. I had an acquaintance, it wasn't even a friend, but it was an acquaintance, somebody I've met that I liked a lot. And he sent out kind of a general email to all his friends saying, we've moved to Australia, we've moved to Sydney, we're going to be here for the next couple of years, please come visit. Well, I sort of called his bluff and said, I'd love to visit. And which we've become very good friends since then. But I found out when there was a big festival that I knew was in the direction of my music, that it was more kind of a traditional jazz.
Yeah.
I hate to say because I don't really play trad jazz, but I knew they were open to swing music. It wasn't just a hardcore, avant-garde festival or something.
Yeah.
So I knew what was going on with that. So what I did is I wrote to that person, the head of that festival, and I had a bit of a name at this point, so it wasn't like I was completely unknown. They knew that the American jazz pianist Judy Carmichael kind of thing. And so I wrote to him and said, I'm going to be in Australia for this period of time. I wrote to some different clubs. I researched it, said, I'm going to be here. And I also wrote to the State Department, to the American State Department. I've done some State Department tours. So I said, I'm going to be here during this period. I will be available. And I think this is a great metaphor for lots of things. People will grab onto an opportunity if you will make that risk. And a lot of times no one wants to take the first step. I was taking the first step. So I was paying for that airfare, which is prohibitive. And so I got a lot of work from that because people thought, oh, great, Judy Carmichael's here. We'll take a chance. Yeah. And, we'll see what happens. Yeah. And then I got a bigger name. I did a lot of radio. I was asked to come back to do a whole tour of the country for our State Department at another time. Now, a lot of times I've found, and this is good advice for the musicians or entertainers, singers, whatever, a lot of times I found that there's countries where, or even states, you know, in the United States, where the airfare is really small, but it's a psychological thing. You know this because I know I've told you when I want to come to California, they say, well, let us know when you're in California. It's so irritating. I've got to have a whole tour before anyone will say yes. So now I just say, I'm going to be there. I don't even wait for the tour.
Yeah.
Because it takes forever to get that tour.
Yeah.
And I did a wonderful gig in San Diego, and I just flew out just for that gig. You know, maybe the airfare's $300. And the presenters, oh, I don't want to pay the airfare. So I think a lot of times it's a psychological thing.
Yeah.
And if people, oh, I've got to grab this opportunity, she's going to be here. So that's what I've done. So I will put out feelers to answer directly what that person is asking. I won't just say, I'm going to buy a ticket to France. I'll find out when there's some things happening. I will tell people I'm going to be there. I'll see what I can get going. But the bottom line is I'm paying my own airfare to get
Right.
there.
I used to
And
do
they're
that. Yeah. Before I was married to Gary, which was about, you know, kind of about 20 years ago, that was before computers were so involved. You know, I mean, we had computers, but not like today.
Yeah,
And
today,
so
right.
we were sending out packages. Remember that? Like physical packages.
Yeah.
And what I would do is I would get one gig, you know, I'd get on the phone too. I had friends all over the world, and I would get one gig in Germany, you know, one teaching gig, or, yeah, of course I always create a teaching gig and a playing gig. And then from there, I would start in the general area saying, I'm going to be in Germany, blah, blah, blah. And then I would slowly build out. But yeah, it was the origination of being brave enough to say, I'm going there then. And, you know.
Yeah. Well, and sticking with it. I don't know if you know who the cabaret performer Steve Ross is.
No.
But Steve used to, I laughed about it because we did probably about 20 years ago, did a long run in a place called Pizza on the Park, which was this beautiful cabaret. It sounds funny for us Americans to say something called pizza, but it's gorgeous.
Oh, in England, right?
But, yeah, in London, right at Hyde Park Corner. And Steve and I he's great at networking and all this stuff. But it was hilarious to me. He had his entire Rolodex with him, which was a huge, if anybody remembers what a Rolodex is.
I do.
Yeah, this huge thing. It had to weigh 5 pounds. But he brought it because he wrote thank you notes to people. He was writing to people to say, I'm going to be here. And you used to send those, I used to send those things. And I think what a lot of people don't realize now in this business is 90% of the time people are saying no. At least in my world, people are saying no, or they say nothing.
Yeah.
They just, you know, it is this relentless sort of.
Yeah, I've talked about that before. Yep.
Yeah, which is easier now with the internet. I mean,
Yeah.
there's more stuff coming at you. But yeah, I sent out those packages too. And it's also, this is, I think, good advice for the people that are listening to this, is now people send out one line, and I can tell you with my jazz-inspired show, because I'm pitched all the time, the first things I listen to are the ones with a handwritten note. In fact, you and I got together because of Judy Wexler. She had written a handwritten note. That's why I looked at it. I have thousands of CDs, piles here.
Yeah.
But here was one with a nice handwritten note saying something that showed she actually had heard my show and was sending this for a reason. Because I'm pitched on all kinds of things. But I answer first the emails that are written like a real letter that actually say, Dear Judy, and they're proper. And early in my career, I got some gigs just because I had such a beautiful press kit. People told me that they listened to my record or whatever I was sending.
Yeah.
Because the press kit was beautiful, and I spent so much money on that press kit. I mean, I had them professionally printed on glossy paper, and it was like $1,000 at the time.
Yeah, I remember that
But
period.
people looked at it, they thought, she's somebody.
Yeah.
I'm gonna open it. And that's one of the biggest things that I can tell people.
Yeah.
Is the presentation of it.
I have two questions that were written. One was, which countries are likely to appreciate jazz and higher? Which countries are the most likely? And then there's another question, which is, any advice for singers to shift through all the praise you naturally receive, some false, some genuine, and keep an objective view of how far along you are on your musical journey? It's a great question.
Fantastic question. That is great. Well, first, I think that there's a bit of at least in my experience, a fantasy about the way the rest of the world, Europe specifically, appreciates jazz, in thinking that it appreciates it a lot more than the United States.
Yeah.
What I find is that other cultures in general honor art and artists more in an appropriate way than we do here. And of course, this is a terrible generalization. So there's, of course, exceptions. But we tend to here in America, which is another reason that I wanted to start my show the way I did, because I wanted to honor people of great commitment and talent and dedication to their work. In America, very often, I feel that we're excited about who's famous. It's more about being famous than the work and the quality of the work and the commitment to the work. It's almost like you're famous or you're nothing. I found in other countries where I've been, that doesn't matter in the same way. It certainly does at a commercial level, like Beyonce's famous everywhere.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that I first discovered this when I was in my early 20s and I worked at Disneyland. And it was a great experiment because I was the control. So I was a young girl playing piano at the end of Main Street in a funny costume. So I obviously wasn't a big name. I was just part of the scenery playing piano. And most people just walk by me. Fair enough, they're there for the Matterhorn. They go with the kids. Every now and then, the Americans would very much be wanting their kids to listen and tell them to practice. So that was what that was about. People from other countries, and I noticed this over and over, and you got to figure 60,000 people walk by me every day, and I was there for 5 years. The other people would have their children, they'd listen, be quiet, wait for the whole tune, and then have the child shake my hand, and they would say congratulations. And there was an honor of the music, not like I was better than they because I'm some celebrity, but they were honoring what I had produced. And that really stood out to me, that it almost never happened with Americans. It was a very different focus. So that's one thing. So you do get a different feeling very often in other countries, but you don't get more money. That's what the real fantasy is. It is so hard to make money in other countries. The money's here. We have the performing arts centers. We have more people. We have more funding. It's very hard to make much money in other countries. So when I go to other places, I'll make a decent amount, but it's very much about the experience in a different way. Not an exotic experience. I'm on the beach in San Moritz. It's playing in England and getting that sweet note with a flower backstage, which almost never happens to me here. This will be some rich person. It'll be one flower, but it'll be a handwritten note saying I've been a fan for years or something. There will be touches like that, or someone in Brazil coming up and having the same kind of feeling and being the way they say congratulations a lot, which is really beautiful because it's a congratulations, I feel, on the quality of the work. So I wouldn't say that there's one country that's going to hire more than other countries that they appreciate it more. It's just all the challenges we have in other countries too. It's hard. And the other one, in terms of getting accurate feedback on what you do, I love that question.
Yeah, that's a
I
cool
put that
question.
a lot in master classes. Because I think that for any artist, any professional who's doing this, it's a constant balance between an appropriate insecurity
Yeah,
to keep us going, but not be so insecure that we're hobbled and can't go forward,
yeah,
and a certain amount of confidence and realistic view of how we're doing. And I think that you have to get honest people around you. And we know who the good people are. And I do that. You know, people that when I started singing, I paid the $100 cover charge of 3 musicians, the crankiest instrumentalists I know, who hate pretty much most singers, which you know how instrumentalists are. And I paid their cover and asked them to come see me in a fancy club in New York and to tell me the truth, if I was making an ass of myself or if I should pursue this. And I sang one tune. This was a whole night of me playing piano. And that took a lot of nerve. And it took $300, but I did it. And it was, that got me going.
that's so
And
cool.
It could have gone either way, Cathy. They could have sent you out of your mind.
Yeah, but that's so cool. And when I was younger, I had a friend, Bill Lohr, who was a really kind of tough love guy, you know, gorgeous piano player. He was the piano player in town that all the singers wanted to play with, right? He's moved since then, but so there was one time where he said, don't take advice from people who you don't know or don't care about. Take advice from, you know, people who you care about. And he had told me about this one particular aspect of singing that I was doing that he felt that could be better. And and I did listen to him. And then within, of course, that period of time, because life works like this, I was at a gig and somebody from the audience came up and they said, "That was really nice. Can I tell you something about your singing?" And I was like, "Oh, this is a sign from God." And I said, "No." And the person just looked at me like, totally shocked that I said that, you know. And I just said, "I'm sorry, I don't know you." And no, the answer is no.
That's so fantastic. I've done that. I'm glad you did that.
Yeah, me too. It really, it changed my point of view. I mean, like you say, there are people you trust, and those should be the people, because as you know, when you're in an environment, well, I don't know if you know this particular part actually. So I've done a billion workshops and hosted workshops, right? And for my own personal workshops, sometimes I can't control what the person does who I'm hosting, you know, as a clinician. But
right.
I don't really allow people to make comments on the singers who get up, because they're not trained teachers. They're not teachers. They haven't been experienced, and it takes an awful lot of empathy and kindness and to be able to teach something valuable and be positive. So I had one person say that this girl who got up sounded like Brunhilde.
Oh God!
The girl was destroyed. She never came back, and she was destroyed. And I felt so horrible that happened. And that was it on people's comments, unless of course you specifically say no, it's going to be positive. However, that can, like Craig was asking, that actually can be, if you read your reviews, you have to take them with a grain of salt, because let's say, oh, however, gosh, I can't think of an example, but if they're concentrating, let's say, on this one aspect of you, then you might tend to take that and blow it up in importance. And really, you have to be your own critic and your own leader as to what, if you think you need help and if you think you need betterment, and take your own forward leading, right? Most of all, right? Don't you?
Yeah, I think that you're talking about somebody not letting the other student say something.
Yeah,
it's important, because I think, well, number one, I would say to people, never say anything to someone after a performance that isn't positive, because we are so raw.
Yeah,
we have just put everything out. So that's never when you tell them something, even if it's your best friend.
Yes, I agree.
You say, that was great. Even if you're lying, just say it. Because at this point, even if you're a beginner, you know if you've had a great night or if you've had a bad night. So you're already thinking those things, and then maybe in a quiet moment later, you can ask. But don't ask unless you want the answer. That's another thing.
Yeah.
I'm very picky about who I'm with after a concert. I pretty much don't want to, unless it's a reception and I have to go. And then if somebody, on the odd chance, somebody's going to give me advice or something, I'm like you, I just say, no, I don't want it. Or I don't even say no, I just turn around and walk away. I'm not even nice about it now. I just, but I have I'm very specific about who I want to see.
Yeah.
I want people that know what I just put out, that kind of thing. But I'll tell you, one time, I had a very, very close friend. This is really illustrative of what we're talking about. But he's highly intelligent, highly sensitive, and wants to do the right thing. And this is interesting, because he and his fiancée at the time flew from LA to see me in Sundance. I was doing a concert there. And it was a beautiful setting. Everything was, Redford had hired me. This was a big deal. So there they are. And afterwards, we all went out. And the first thing he said is, you couldn't hear a thing. You couldn't, it was so quiet. You couldn't even hear what you were saying. And it was like somebody stuck a dagger in my heart, because I've just done everything for this fancy audience, right? But because I love this guy, because he's a close friend, I knew what he was really saying was, I want the best for you, Judy.
Yeah.
You had your Steinway. Why didn't they get you a better sound system? So I took it, but it still hurt.
Yeah.
Well, I told him, I wrote him a note so that it would be less awkward. And I took the time and wrote him a note and said, just so you know, I know that you could hear that was an exaggeration. Obviously, he said, I can't hear anything. I said, never say anything negative. Told him this thing about after concert. I said, also, when it's something that can't be changed, because I'm not going to do a concert there the next night, don't even say it. And I sort of educated him a little bit. Didn't get mad.
Yeah.
I said, I did it with love. He sent me a beautiful bouquet of flowers.
Oh.
Said, I'm an idiot. Thank you for telling me. And my point is, I don't let people speak a lot of times because they just don't know. Yeah. And they don't know how vulnerable we are at that moment. Yeah. And so I think, again, if you are pursuing this, as this person who asked this question is, you know who your betters are. Yeah. You know who you want to listen to. Yeah. And you ask them, why I ask those musicians to come. You find someone you trust, or you study with someone like you who's going to give you honest feedback, and in an appropriate setting you get the right feedback. And that's how you do it, I think. Yeah, me too. I've had experiences like that too. Would you like to play a song? Yeah, let me figure out how I can do it. And I'm going to tell, because I'm going to carry this in and see if I can set
Okay.
it up in a way.
I have a comment on what we were just talking about from Dave Moscow, great piano
Oh
player.
yeah,
He said, isn't most criticism ego-based? Sure. It's basically people are saying their own fears. I agree. And also a comment on, Diane, your question, do vocalists who can accompany themselves have advantage when booking gigs? The thing is about Judy is a particular, as you'll see, she's a particular artist. She does what she does, and she's not playing cover tunes and, you know, doing that kind of thing. Of course, if you want to travel the world and you play piano and sing, you're probably going to have an easier time booking yourself. And then you can add people in when you travel. But Judy is she's a very particular experience, and she's known for that. That's what she is known for. So
yeah, and I think that there's advantages and disadvantages. There's people who are very broad and do lots of things.
yeah,
And they're going to get lots of gigs if they're great at lots of different things. They have lots of skills. I'm very narrow, but I chose to stick with that because I found the kind of music that I liked.
yeah,
But I also was very aware, and this is this part about being realistic. I always say that the most successful people assess their talents accurately and go forth with courage. And I knew early on I was not a music major. I didn't have all those music skills. I didn't grow up doing this. I was not thinking this would be a living. So I was pretty narrow. I came at this very late to where, most people we know were playing in bands when they were younger. They had that experience I didn't have.
yeah,
So I heard a kind of music that I liked, devoted myself to it, realized I was never going to catch up in this other way. But then at the same time, I realized I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I didn't want to play Happy Birthday. I didn't want to, but I figured, well, if this is what you're going to do and you're going to be narrow, you better be the best at this thing. So people will want to come see you do this one thing because they're not going to hear me do a wide variety of things.
yeah.
And, it's that kind of thing.
But that's fabulous. Yeah, it was suggested to me to use a music stand. You might want to do that, and then we could see you playing
Well,
too.
I'm going to get a table. I'm going to get up on the stool and
Okay.
and see my hands. So I'm
Okay.
going to disappear for a minute. I'll be right
Okay,
back.
I'll just tell people, I'm telling you that tomorrow I'm having Rhiannon on, the queen of improvisation. I mean, Rhiannon is a powerhouse, and she does things all over the world. She lives in Hawaii. She's taught at Berkeley. She's sung in Bobby McFerrin's Voicestra. I mean, on and on, She's really stupendous. So she's going to be on Monday. I think Tuesday.
Can you see the keys?
Yes. But we might want to see you too, your face.
Oh, you don't have to see me.
Well, you're gonna.
Isn't it more fun just to see the hands?
Aren't you going to sing a little too?
Well, I don't know. Let's see. What should we do?
Actually, I can't see the lower part of the keyboard that well. Okay, whoops. Maybe down a little.
Tell me what happens there. Hang on.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I think that's good.
Really? I can't see myself. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, you can see me and you can see my hands?
Yep.
Oh, cool. Oh, I see it up there. There it is. Okay. All right. I got a tiny little thing here. Hang on.
You might shift it just a little more towards you, just a hair.
Okay, I made it bigger. Oh, now I'm seeing your screen again. Let me see how I get rid of that. Hang on.
Can you shift your device a little bit more towards you?
I'm just going to shift it and you tell me if that's doing what you want it to do. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool because then we get to see you.
You do it?
Yeah.
Can you see?
Yeah.
All right.
So
Well,
before you go on, hold on one second. I'm just telling, Tuesday is Dennis Dreeth, and he's going to talk about all kinds of cool things like licensing and
Oh, cool.
Spotify and all kinds of licensing areas. Then Wednesday, Josh Nelson, pianist, great pianist, will be
Oh,
doing it.
who's on your record?
Yeah. And then the other guy on my record, Friday, Larry. So we're gathering some really cool, fun people
Are you
here.
gonna have Larry on this too?
Yeah, on Friday.
Oh, fantastic! Oh,
Yeah.
I'll be asking questions.
Okay, and one more thing. Today, after our class, Cheryl Barnes and her husband, Phil Cabasso, are giving a live performance on her Facebook page, Cheryl Barnes, so you might want to check into that.
Aww.
And now, the fabulous Judy Carmichael.
I have to figure out what I want to do. My hands are kind of cold.
Okay.
Thinking. I didn't make a plan on this part of it, Cathy, so I don't, no, let's see.
That's okay.
Something fast or slow? Fast, I guess?
On the more upside, probably just for first.
Play something. So I play a kind of music, for those of you who don't know, Cathy mentioned that I play. I don't know where I'm looking, but there's sort of,
that's okay.
Called stride piano. And it's talking about the left hand, can you see my hand? Making a striding motion over the bass end of the key. So I'll play a little bit of a tune with some stride. Here we go.
Yay!
It's so funny because we were just talking about I haven't played in so long. My hands are actually kind of, going, But I sort of started with a little boogie thing, more than just a stride thing there. So that's what that is.
Could you, is there a light that you could put on? Because you're a little bit in the dark.
Let me see here. There isn't a lot of light here. I think it's because there's light behind.
Oh, yeah. The lady be good. I know, isn't the stride great, Prince? And actually, it would be great.
Does that make it worse or better?
I think that's better.
Oh, good. Okay.
Could you do one and sing?
I can try. Let me see what I can. My hands are really cold. We're in New York here, folks, and it's cold. What did I do to you? I tears for you. And every hazy cloudy Christmas. How true for the friends who were near me. We made it. But you were the kind who would hurt me, to me when I needed you. You drive me crazy. What did I do? What did you do? Thank you. That is the tune that I sang for the guys that I asked them to come to the club. And that I paid their cover and had them come. So that was the tune that I sang, which was a Peggy Lee recording that I'd heard, which was the first one I attempted. So that was that. Does anybody else have a question? I'm always fascinated.
Not yet, but lots of comments that they're loving it. Judy Wexler says she loves you.
Hi, Judy. Love you too.
Cecily Gardner said you're the bomb.
Thank you.
Yeah, do one, at least one more playing one. I just want to hear.
All right,
and
okay.
actually, I wouldn't mind hearing a song that you wrote if you
Oh my
can.
God. What can I play that I've written? This is what I wrote about. I don't know if you've heard this, Cathy. I wrote this about leaving Los Angeles and moving to New York. Have I ever played that for you?
I don't know. That
I
doesn't
haven't
sound
done it in a
familiar.
long time. It's called My Manhattan. When I first saw you in LA, my friends thought I was crazy. How could I leave the sunshine and boy toys? At last, that cushy living had made me fat and lazy. I need competition, Christ, and noise. Manhattan's my town. The taste of fashion is my passion. It's the place where you go to and feel alive. Grab your sweetie and get set. Fall in love and start some trouble. Race and schemes and your dreams. Never get down. Baby, if you want to let me tell you ace. In Manhattan, there'll be 10 of you. That's why it's my place. Let's go. It's your time, don't be a no-show. Says the day we're in town.
I could hear you singing, but not all the words. But enough.
Oh, too bad.
But enough to get an idea.
It was I know it was a risk, but you asked for it.
That's great.
Really
That's great. Okay, one more piano one, and then I can.
Another one?
Yeah, something.
Not enough.
Whatever you really love, you know.
Let's see. I know a little bit of Handful of Keys. This is a big stride tune that everybody had to learn when they were coming up. This is the tune that everybody asked me. Ellington had to learn it. Basie had to learn it. Everybody had to learn it. Spats Wallow tune. Let's see if I can do a little bit. I ended it quickly, but that gives you an idea.
That's great.
Kind of one of those. Let me come back up to you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm sorry you couldn't hear the words on that other one. I'm going to go in the other room. I think it works better.
You have a few more comments. Do you do any covers of Dave Frischberg songs? I'd bet you do an amazing version of My Attorney Bernie.
I love that tune. I love that tune. Yes, and I have a friend whose attorney is named Bernie. So yes. Dave was, it's interesting. Dave, a lot of people don't know that he approaches stride in a very interesting way in those early records, like that record. Do you have Getting Some Fun Out of Life? He does a wonderful Alligator Crawl. Is it Alligator Crawl? Yeah. And that, anyway, yes, I love Dave. Love him.
Yeah, he was, when I was first in California and I was 21 and I was a waitress at Dante's, and so I was there for about a year and a half. That's where I met all my LA musician friends. And because, I met the old guys because, I was 21 and, the waitress. Anyway, but Dave,
Say no.
yeah, but Dave Frischberg was there. And that was actually when he started singing.
Yeah.
And, they called him the Snake. Did you remember that? Because
The Snake?
because of the way he moved when he played.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah.
I had a crazy gig in Carmel that I used to fly up for when I lived there on the weekends. And the bass player, Buddy, somebody, he was missing one of his fingers, like the tip of his finger, and he was an amazing bass player, and an old friend of Dave's. And he heard what I was trying to do with my stride, and he said, "You should call Dave when you get back to LA." And it was great. I went and spent the afternoon with Dave and just played piano. And
God.
kind of played, but it was interesting because anybody that was trying to learn stride was trying to do it exactly the way that the other guys had. And Dave had a really different approach, and this Buddy knew that I did too. So I have a long connection.
That's cool. Hey, my friend Prince Moore, he says, what was the name of that last tune? Damn, I'm old.
Oh, what? I just played a teeny bit of Handful of Keys, which is a famous Spats Wallow tune.
Okay. And then also you have an expression of love from a really incredible guitar player, Mitchell Long. And he said, I love it so much. Thanks, Judy, to make us feel good and give us all your insight.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. I was thinking, I was just curious because this was one thing that actually came up a few days ago. Do you when you travel, do you get contracts? Do you absolutely insist on contracts? Do you not get contracts? What do you feel about that?
It's funny. I always get a contract, and I always get a deposit. And I know a lot of people that don't do that, but I get a deposit as soon as I get the contract. So I usually get a deposit like 50% a year in advance.
Oh,
that's how I do it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just curious about that. I know
a lot of people don't. They're stunned when I ask for that, and I don't do door deals either. At the rare club that I play,
yeah,
I always guarantee.
Yeah. You're also a really good. Not only are you great to listen to and to watch, but also your patter in between songs is really comfortable and entertaining. And you have anything to say to that? Because some people, you know, they struggle with getting nervous or just not really knowing what to say, you know.
I do. I think that is a separate talent, and I think that you have to commit to develop that as well as your music. And I think that the audience is nervous for you. If the audience is there to be entertained, but they also want to be relaxed. So you have to show them that you're relaxed. And if you're not relaxed, you have to learn to fake you're relaxed until you get relaxed. I think that a lot of people make a mistake that they write out kind of a pattern. They have a long thing that they're going to say. I think that you should start with very short, say very little, but something that you can deliver in a relaxed way. Yeah. Even if it's one comment. And I also think that audiences love something personal rather than say, well, this song was written in 1945, blah, blah, blah. To say, I first heard this tune when I was on a date with this, and it's had meaning for me ever since. Yeah. They're immediately with you. Yeah. But the biggest thing I would say is start small. Yeah. Say something short and practice it in front of the mirror, in front of your friends, whatever. Yeah. And then expand. Don't come out with a whole long pattern. Because some people are naturally funny, some people aren't. Yeah. And naturally good at this. And even if it was always that part of it was easier for me, but I still had to develop it. I didn't just come out and be talking a lot. Yeah. So I think that, but it's very important. I've seen some wonderful singers, people we know. One a few months ago, she never looked at the audience. It was stunning to me. Yeah. Fantastic technique, all of this, and she never faced the audience completely. The whole thing, she was sort of sideways, had her eyes closed for most of it, and never fully looked at the audience. So you never felt connected. That's just wrong. Yeah. You know, a good example of a person who, well, Liz Wright. Have you seen her perform? I've never seen her perform. So she's, well, first of all, I mean, I could go on about her because I'm really totally enthralled with her. She's, but the thing that strikes me always immediately when I see her is her total grace about being herself. First of all, she's stunning to look at, and it's not because she overdresses. She has a look that she does. It's almost like an elegant church look. You know, she wears these kind of long dresses, and she's a sexy looking woman, but she wears these very simple lines, you know, and she has very short hair with little tiny earrings, and not made up a lot, and she's right there. And I think for her, she's obviously, it's a thing about being connected to God, because she makes references, you know, and her music also is, you know, there's some gospel in it. And what she says in between is she will freely admit that she's shy and she doesn't know how to talk to the audience, and then she'll make jokes about it, you know, and the band is extremely supportive, and she'll look at the band, you know, and they'll, you know, and the music is so beautiful and honest, and her voice is, it's like an arrow through your heart. It's so amazing. So, but that's a really interesting, I'm talking about, Manny, I'm talking about Liz Wright. Liz Wright. She's a really amazing artist. And so it doesn't have to be super entertaining and perfect. It doesn't have to be any of that. But if you could just treat people like you're speaking to them personally, right? Like they're in your living room. Well, I think that's the point. It's like, I'm always struck by that when people say, you know, just be yourself or just be honest. But so many people aren't honest. I hate to say it, but they're not even honest with themselves when they're just talking to someone like we're talking now. They have a real layer of something else.
Yeah.
So you really, it's one of the things actually I wanted to talk to you about. I thought about this yesterday, is that there's no substitute if you're going to be a professional performer for just getting out there and doing it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
You cannot just think your way through this. You have to be in front of an audience, make those discoveries. I've seen films of myself, and from a long time ago, and I can look at right when I was nervous, right when I looked down, right when you learn these things, but you can't just go out fully formed. You have to go out, be embarrassed, say I'm having a hard night. I mean, when I got my first gig in New York, I did a big concert, and I'd never really done anything where people had focused and listened to me, because I got all those years at Disneyland in a costume. Anonymous people walked by, and when people applauded, I said, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And afterwards, a girlfriend said, Judy, act like you're used to it. You act so desperate. And she was right. I'm so grateful that I'm so surprised that people were applauding and not eating, a hot dog. But that was great feedback. And it made me think, okay, pretend like you're used to it, and pretend like you're a concert artist, even though you've only done one concert. And so there is a fair amount of just getting into
process. Yeah,
process. But you have to just get out there. If you are a new person approaching this, take those gigs you think are beneath you. Get out in front of an audience. And get that feedback. If you want to be the front person, if you're a side man and you're always going to be back there and just smiling and strumming away, that's a different gig.
That's so true. I had an experience like that 2 years ago. I had been working at a place called Simply Blues, which was in the middle of Hollywood on Hollywood and Vine. And it was on the top floor of the building, and it was catty corner to Motown. And I was working with a black piano player, and I did that for a long time, weekly I think it was every Wednesday or something. And the people would come in from Motown, and I would get the weirdest vibes, man, from that. Whoa, I don't know, like, who is this white chick playing with the black guy, and who does she think she is, and blah. Anyway, I just had a lot of like looks and stuff, it was really, and then actually there's two parts to this story. One part is my first husband, Gus Garcia, who maybe some people watching remember him. He was a very interesting man, extremely spiritual. I won't go into the bad parts, but he was very spiritual, and he would direct me really. He was 11 years older than me, and he taught me a lot. And one thing was, Sunset and Vine, thanks, Prince. And one thing he taught me was, one of the first nights I was working, I came back and I was just kind of a wreck. I was exhausted and just not super happy, and he said, okay, I'm going to give you something to do. And I said, okay. And he said, I want you to create an invisible barrier around you and the piano player. Nothing can flow in, but you can flow out. So I went in the next night and I did that, and it was magic. I wasn't exhausted. I wasn't anything except in the music. This is probably where my idea, you guys who know about my universe is, my musical universe, maybe that's where it came from. But so that was part of the story. The second part of the story was during that period of time, I had a gig in Fresno for a real special, beautiful little concert. I was a friggin' nervous wreck because people were listening and supportive. And that took a lot going through that night. And
you were more nervous because they were so focused?
Yes. I really got some big lessons out of that. you know, and like you say, if you don't get out there, you will never go through that process, or you might go through it in a really at a bad moment, or, you know, you have to get out and get your hands dirty to clean them up again, you know.
Well, yeah, and no amount of talking. It's no
Right.
amount of talking about this is the same as actually doing it.
Yeah.
They have to have that experience, and it's and I think that's a problem in a way now, because with some of the people who, there are so many music programs now, jazz programs.
Yeah.
You know, when you and I were 20, there weren't these programs. You couldn't just go to a school and think you were going to come out and have a career. You had to go out and create these jobs, or find these jobs. I had a wonderful singer on on the show, and she was talking about that in her master's program. They told her how a jazz singer acts, because they didn't like the way she was. She has a wonderful stage presence, and they didn't like the way that she acted on. They said, no, there's a certain way that a jazz singer acts, and it was
Oh my God.
not at all how you and I think a jazz singer acts. It's because what really, I think what you said that's really important is you were talking about how everybody finds their own way of behaving. You know, they have, because we're all different personalities. So one person coming out and doing a presentation in one way is not going to, you and I are going to do it differently. Our music's different, we're different. It's finding that and being comfortable with putting that out there.
Yeah, that's so true. Hey, we have a few kind of added comments, which are really nice, which is, you know, Cecily said, also remember it's about being a vessel for the music. It's not all about you. And that helps my shy students a lot. And Taylor Hatch said, the music has to be bigger than you. And that's so true. It's, you know, when you can be committed to the moment and being creative in the moment, and just being there and doing that solves so many problems, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I'm curious, do you make your set lists? Do you create set lists for your shows?
I do, but then I usually don't stick to it.
Yeah.
But it gives me kind of a guide, and a lot of times the guys like to know. And
Yeah.
now that I'm doing more some original things that they're not going to know and they need music, they want to have an order.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. But I usually don't stick to it exactly, because I want to feel how the audience is so I can change with that.
Yeah. And I'm curious. I mean, I know obviously your thing is stride and boogie woogie, but do you ever mess around at home even with, you know, a different style, you know, maybe more like just throwing out a name like Bill Evans, or, you know, that something very different?
Yeah, I've been doing that now. That's one of the things that I'm hoping to spend more time on in our Corona isolation, because I've, you know, because you've heard me do some of my originals. I did one here that was still stride bass that I wrote the music as well. But I have all these songs that I've written with Harry Allen.
Oh yeah,
some of your
great
people will know, which have a much broader musical palette, stylistically and harmonically. And it's not a natural way of playing for me. It's all in my bones, and I can sing that way. But it's a different way of playing the piano that's has nothing to do with stride.
Right.
And so I've been working on that, and I've shyly played it for a couple people because it's a whole new me. So I'm testing it out. I was, in January, I was traveling, I was on the road, and I played it for a saxophonist. I said, come here, you're my first test. And I sang a tune and played for myself, but it's real comping. And it's much different voicings and all of that. So it's exactly what you're talking about. I was very shy, but he liked it. And so I'm testing it out in front of musicians until I'm comfortable enough to perform that way. But yes, that's what I'm doing. And one of the first things I thought about during this time, because I know I'm going to be home at least 2-3 months, and not doing my gigs is working some of these things up. So I set that as a goal, that when I'm performing, I'm going to at least do a couple of these. Because as you've seen me, when I do those songs, I'm usually standing and singing and having my guitarist play them.
Right, right.
And, you know, and if it's got a bossa nova beat or something else, rather than me accompanying that. But so that's one of my goals, one of the ways I'm stretching myself.
That's cool. Yeah, now you make me want to go practice piano every day. I really should be practicing piano, you know, getting better.
I should be practicing. We should all be practicing more, but we have all these other things we have to do.
Yeah, but if I practiced, you know, even 10 minutes a day, I'd be better.
Well, that's true. And that's one of the things that I do, is I time myself. Well, I should have practiced before I played for all of you. But I don't know if you do that, but I will set that up. I'll think, I'm going to do a half hour, or I keep track. And so at the end of the day, when I feel like I haven't practiced at all, I think, no, you practiced a half hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all need reinforcement.
That's cool. I have been writing down what I do, like when I go to, which helps me for some reason.
Yeah.
I go and let's say I practice technique, so I write down technique. And then, I don't know, that somehow gives me more focus. Maybe the next day I come, or later that day, maybe I come and I go, well, I already practiced technique. What else can I do? Oh, I'll go over this song. And so that's been fun too. But the timing, you know, when I was a kid, I used to do, that was how I studied. When I was a kid, I would go to my room to do my homework, and I would give myself 1/2 hour for each subject. And it worked great.
Yeah.
I never really did that afterwards, although I thought about it many, many, many times, you know, and trying to organize my office, and, you know, the ever endless organizing of my office, you know. And one thing I actually, regarding organizing my office, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who can relate to this, organizing your time, organizing your office, your practice sessions, you know, all of this stuff. So what I found, I've read a whole bunch of different books about organization, because for some reason that's always fascinated me. And so Stephen Covey books, and, you know, all kinds of books. Anyway, they all have these kind of programs that you can put into effect. And what I found was I read the book, I get very excited, I create, you know, a bulletin board with what the form is, and I'm really excited. I created it, I put time into it, you know, a few days of real intense time, and then as soon as it's done, I never use it again. And at first I was like, this is stupid, I should be using it, you know. And then I realized it's a process. It's in this case of what I was describing, it gives me the aha moment that soaks in and puts other things in order, you know. So that's probably what I need to do too for practicing my music, you know, getting these kind of aha feelings, you know, like, oh, good, that's how I can do it, that's how I can accomplish this and feel better. I mean, I know that studying the songs, like, just for instance, there's a gig that I did with arrangements by John Leftwich, and he had this really difficult arrangement of Smile. And it had, most of the sections were in 11. And so, and although I know the song well, wrapping my head and my body around 11 was not easy at first. And
no.
So I had to really look at the music, you know, for over and over and over again, in one part over and over and over again. And that always works for music. You must have that experience because of the stuff that you play. Is, I mean, even though you're a great stride player, there must be songs that are challenging, have challenging sections still.
Well, and I find that, at least for me, I'm thinking a lot of things that you're saying is that I think, again, we're coming back to in this time when people are going to have a lot more time at home, and I think it's really helpful to think that if you accomplish something, if you produce something, you put something good out into the world, even if it's thinking, I'm going to spend I'm going to call 3 people today and be supportive because everyone's having a hard time. You know, come out of yourself and think, who can I help? What good deed can I do? Something like that, whatever. But it's, I think we all feel like we're not doing enough. So I find, I'll write a list even now. Because if I do a list on my computer, it doesn't seem to be the same as writing down a list. Because it's so satisfying to cross up, okay, class with Cathy, organize my office, you cross those things off. But it's a healthy reinforcement. And with the practice thing, I find that the hardest practice for me is to sit down and do these things that are brand new for me and say, okay, I'm not going to stride, which is my comfy spot. I'm going to play in this different way that I'm insecure about, because as soon as I sit down, I want to be Bill Evans, and I'm not Bill Evans. You know, I thought, I'm doing this new thing. Why don't I sound great? But I have to say, if I spend an hour on that, the satisfaction is huge, because I have stretched myself way more, that I will get a much bigger pat on the back, satisfaction, whatever you want to call it, of an hour of that than I will if I just play an hour of stride tunes, you know, and that kind of thing. So I think that it's a little harder to get into it, but at the end of it, you just feel so great, and you do a little bit every day, and next thing you know, suddenly you can do it, and you're much, much better at it. So that's how I approach it. And I think that applies to everything. Yeah. Whether you're working on music or something else.
Well, this is inspiring me to think about the practice differently. You know, it's really good to be honest about how we're feeling about practice and going into the creating room and creating right now. Yeah. So it's and I've thought about that before. I've actually written it down that I should apply what excites me so much about organizing my office to organizing my music, in organizing my practice. You know, my music's organized, it has the books and it has the numbers on the charts and all, you know, blah, blah, blah. But actually organizing practice, you know, because then, like you say, you can get something really special done, and it can be so satisfying and rewarding.
It is rewarding, and I think, well, that's why professional writers always talk about that they have a routine. Some people write at night, some people write in the morning, but they do it every day. Yeah. They do it like going to the office, and they're really writing. And I think that's one of the surprises, or one of the fantasies for people who don't do this professionally, a creative undertaking, is that they think that these things come in a burst of inspiration, or that it just happens, or it's somehow magic, where the most successful people are struggling with all the things we're talking about, and they figure out what strategies work for them to accomplish something and to get better and better. And think, if it's a record that motivates you, because that record, you know, a recording date, or for me, I had to think, well, now I don't have a gig for 3 months, so I can really get away with not practicing. You know, the thing like I play, I have to practice every day, just maintenance to keep the chops up. Well, now I could take a month off, you know, I can do that, but I don't want to do that. Yeah. I want to think, no, I want to keep the chops sharp. Yeah. I want to learn new things. So it isn't any easier for us than it is for other people. We have to have this talk with ourselves. And I mean, Howard Alden was the person that told me clear back when we were teenagers and met each other, that the guitarist, for those of you people might not know who this is, I was talking about this practice thing, and he goes, you know, my teacher tells me to time myself. And that's when I started timing my practice. I wouldn't say I'm going to practice a half hour. I would just notice the clock, then practice, and then when I was done, and lo and behold, an hour had gone by. So I had practiced an hour, where in my mind I was robotically, I haven't practiced at all. No, I practiced it out. So it's one of the best advices that I've ever gotten, and that was just something his teacher told him, who was the same teacher as Larry Kuntz's teacher. Did you know that?
Dave Weibel or who?
I don't know. Larry said he had the same teacher as Howard Alden, so that was news to me.
Yeah.
I didn't get the name, I'm afraid. But
Yeah. I'm sorry, not Dave Weibel, Jimmy Weibel, maybe.
Yeah,
I think Jimmy Weibel was, yeah. Yeah, you know, that's really true. And not to say that I absolutely agree with that, and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that now. Yeah. But I do want to say too that you know, don't be mean to yourself about it either, because I remember what Dave Pell. Remember Dave Pell, the sax player? And so one time I talked to him, and he had put down the sax for 20, 25 years. And it was sitting in his closet. He never threw it out. And he decided to get back into playing, maybe when he retired or something. And he took it out, and he said he played better than ever. But maybe not technically so much, but he had all that life experience and perspective.
Oh, makes a big difference.
Yeah. So that is the aha moments that you have in everyday life contribute to what's coming out in your music. But unless you commit and look at what you're doing and pay some attention, close attention to it, you know, you might not move ahead. You might just be stuck in the same comfortable zone that you are, which maybe for some people is okay, and for some people it's not okay. You know, you want to challenge yourself.
You have to move forward.
Yeah.
You have to move forward because we're all so different. We can't. I mean, maybe it is okay because some people that's how their life is. But I was really impressed with Mel Powell. Do you know who Mel Powell was?
No, I don't think so.
Know
But
that name?
sounds familiar.
Mel Powell was a magnificent pianist who played with Benny Goodman, and it just, I mean, technique up to here. He was just incredible. And then he got, then he left that and started studying with Hindemith and became a composer. Maybe he'd been composing all the time, but he really went in a radically different direction because he was a swing piano player.
Yeah.
And like a Teddy Wilson on steroids. And one of my favorites. And then he got, I can't remember what the disease was, but it was a degenerative disease to where his mind was still working, but he was losing facility and physicality and all this. And I heard an interview with him talking about this, and his attitude was incredible about this. And I was quite young when I heard this. And so I was, you know, very physically together. And they were saying, how are you handling this psychologically? And you know, don't you miss it and all that? And he said, well, I did all that. He said, and now I'm composing and the music's in my head. So I can still compose. I don't have to be playing like that. And there was no self-pity. There wasn't anything but, you know, his attitude, I remember he said, jazz is a young man's game. I did all that. And he wasn't saying it in an arrogant way, but this is one of the greatest pianists who ever lived. And he went on and got whether it would be a Nobel or a Pulitzer, I can't remember, but you know, he was very celebrated as a composer with people who didn't even know the Mel Powell that I know. That was this great swing piano player.
That is so cool.
It was really cool about the lack of self-pity.
Yeah.
And his whole attitude, but it was also really significant to me that his attitude of, well, why would I be doing the same thing? I'm not the same person. Why would I still be playing that way?
Yeah.
And because that, I've dealt with that with myself. I thought, why am I so bored with this? Why don't I still want to do this? And you change it. And something, I was very fortunate to spend a lot of time with Sarah Vaughan, as you know. And I remember that towards the end of my Disneyland years, I told Sarah, I said, you know, because at Disneyland I was playing 7 days a week, or 5 days a week, 7 hours a day of solo piano. And it's really hard not to get sick of yourself with your own music.
Yeah.
And I said to her that I was really worried because I just couldn't play that much anymore. I was starting to hate my music. And she said, the better you get, the less you'll be able to play. She said, it's not normal to be playing 7 hours a day. She said, the better your music, each note's going to count more. So more will go into each note. So of course you can't play like that anymore. because you're a better musician. Isn't that interesting perspective?
Very, yeah, that's really
Because
interesting.
when I started at Disneyland, I was in my early 20s, and it was all about chops,
Yeah,
learning tunes, running through repertoire. But after 5 years of that, that's not what it was about.
that's really interesting. Not a lot of people can say that they've had that experience.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. Yeah.
Well, I think we might be coming to the end of our time.
I loved it, Cathy. I always love talking to you. I hope that we were able to bring some insight to some people.
I'm sure people loved it. I've got a lot of little love things going by.
Good.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're writing another book, and I'm excited that you're going to start playing Bill Evans-y type of music and get more into your writing. And I'm looking forward to knowing how you're doing staying at home more than 10 days in a row.
I know. Well, we will talk. We will be talking about it. I'll check in on. I love that you're doing this. This is fantastic.
It's really nice. I kind of just was kind of thinking, because the gigs got canceled and
Yeah.
the workshops got canceled and my Japan trip got canceled. And I was just thinking, I really want to do something for people, and I've done stuff like this before, but not quite, as steady because I've had I've had a life. And so now I don't have a life. Yeah, oh God. But I think it's really cool, and I can have people on from all over the planet, and I can have people ask questions. And the only problem is I know so many people that I would like to invite on, and you probably go through that as well. I would like to invite on hundreds of people that I know, So I feel like if I do continue this, maybe I'll once everything kind of passes, maybe I'll continue it once a week or once every 2 weeks or once a month, whatever. And but it would be fun to continue. I know you know how that feels, to reach out and grab people and talk to them, because it's just even our best friends, we don't sit there necessarily and ask all these questions about their past and their accomplishments and their lessons in life. You deal with your friends on a day-to-day basis, but it's so interesting and worthwhile to hear people talk, especially people who are creating arts, because it's such a challenging field, really, to be making your living at. And where people who don't understand always say, why do you do it? And why do you do it? You're not making a lot of money. Why are you doing it?
Well, it's a full I have an artist, and I'll listen forward in and what I mean by living this way is that you and I can have a conversation like this, that we can go to that place quickly that a lot of people never get to. And I think that creative people communicate that way. They're talking about these things that have a bigger meaning, that are out there. The fact that you want to put this out and do something good in your great spirit and bring people in, I think is wonderful. And I think that's part of just having a creative life. Everybody has a creative life. We just think about it more, and we're more connected with that. So that's what I think, even beyond the music. It's wonderful in our case to make music, but I think to get to live a creative life is the greatest thing of all.
Yeah. And for those of you who are checking in late, I urge you to listen to the beginning of our conversation where Judy was describing her reasoning for creating
Jazz Inspired.
Thank you. Jazz Inspired, which is her, what do you call it, a blog or an interview or?
Well, no, it's a show on NPR, and it's also a podcast.
Okay.
So
yeah. Jazz Inspired, she's done hundreds because it's been 20 years that she's been doing it, and it's fascinating, wonderful conversations with everybody, kind of in the arts, directors, actors, musicians, and but her reasoning for starting it, you got to go check out the beginning of it. And
Please do, and they can find it on all podcast platforms or listen on if they go to jazzinspired.com.
okay,
You can find a station in their area. It'll be easy to podcast. You can look through
Okay.
Carmichael's as hired, and so it's a whole podcast and it's really a conversation like we're having. It's that inspiration, the creative process. Everything from, well, as you know, I just had Jeff Goldblum recently, and I've had Robert Redford, and I most recently had Roger Corman.
Yeah.
People will know from the shop before.
That's great. Wow.
That was an interesting conversation. Oh my gosh, amazing. Talk about engaged and present. He's 93, Cathy, and he was just incredible. Totally there. Every single. Amazing.
Now, you're actually starting to break up, so I guess it is over. But I'm just going to repeat a few things that she was saying. So go to jazzinspired.com, and then it will show you different platforms, listening platforms that you can listen. And type in her name, Judy Carmichael. And she was saying that more recently, she interviewed Robert Redford and Roger Corman of the Little Shop of Horrors fame, and a great conversation, and how Roger was totally present and charming, and he's 93. So I love that one. And so just as a reminder, tomorrow I'm going to have Rhiannon, the queen of improvisation, I like to call her, on, and then the next day Dennis Dreeth, who's going to talk all about licensing issues and things like Spotify, and how do you collect your money, all kinds of stuff like that. So definitely tune in and find out. And a few other people this week. I think Josh Nelson is on Wednesday and Larry Kuntz is on Friday. Thursday I am taking off because I want to go see Keith Terry on his site. He's giving a workshop on body percussion, which I took here live a few weeks ago. And I took his class years ago at Madeline Eastman's Jazz Camp West. And he's really great. He does all these kind of body percussions, which is really valuable for people who want to really solidly lock into time and groove. It's really great. And it's fun. It's really fun. Keith Terry. He's on Thursday, so I decided I'm going to take that off and go listen to him. Also, shortly at 2:00, Cheryl Barnes and Phil Cabasso are going to give a live performance. So you'll definitely want to see that. Judy Carmichael, I love you. Thank you so much.
Love you too, Cathy. Thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this. I think it's fantastic. Spreading your good spirit through the waves, the internet waves here. And we will talk soon, and I'll be tuning in for your other talks.
Okay, love you. Mwah.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.